Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Bourbon Basement. I'm Ryan.
I'm Steve.
And if you can't tell already, today's episode is going to be on Heaven Hills Distillery because Father actually just literally got back 10 minutes ago from a distillery tour here, and I've not heard anything about it. So when he does his little story time tonight, it'll be the first time me hearing it as well.
Well, story time will kind of be part of the history time too, because didn't have a lot of history prepared for it. If you can see, I've got a few notes jotted down. So if you see me looking down, I'm reading off paper. Don't hate me for it. I try to do better than this. But did you all know?
Did you know
that all Heaven Hill produces all of this and more? This is what I had of Heaven Hill products.
This is what we can fit on the counter.
Well, that at the distillery.
Disclosure alert, the comments and chat is on. There should be no technical difficulties in this episode. Just putting that out there.
So from last week, it's better than it was from last week. Thank you, Ryan. Way to get on that. How long have you been working on that problem?
10 minutes. But I got it fixed. I knew I didn't do anything wrong. Anyway.
All right. So all of these products that you see here, they're all produced at Heaven Hill. So we have some technical difficulties in behind.
I said no technical difficulties. This was not my fault.
So we did take a tour today. Story time, great facility. First time I'd ever been there.
Oh, you've never been to Heaven Hills before?
I hadn't been there, and I tasted some things for the first time too. I tried a Evan Williams 12-year. It was awesome. I picked this up today. It's the JTS Brown. It's like a 20. I picked up the Fighting Cock. It was another one I tried today.
Hey, this is family friendly.
Another 20. It's a rooster, son. Another $20 bottle, and it was fantastic as well. What's going on?
We have had this one before.
Yes.
I have had that one before, correct?
Yes, we tried that during one of our tastings. Actually, out of the 8, it was like number 1 and 2 for most everybody that day, and it was really good.
What are we holding up?
My producer's wanting me to raise something. I don't
have the sign.
This is my Heaven Hill bar mat.
These are our Bourbon Basement branded towels.
This is my cheat sheet, and in no particular order. But anyway, we did the tour today. Cinnamon. That was from the eggnog episode. If y'all haven't seen that one, a real treat.
Anyway, we're going to ignore that she's even back there for the rest of the episode.
Like, what was the episode going to be about today?
It was going to, well, should we even say?
I don't know. It's just
we were going to do Angel's Envy, but that didn't go very well. We changed that within 15 minutes of going live. And
I got home about 10 minutes ago. So here we are.
I got a call on the way home. Hey, go ahead and set this up. We're not doing Angel's Envy. We're doing all this other stuff. Okay, 10-4. So 15 minutes.
Today's episode is on Heaven Hill. And even though they make all these other products, what we're going to do is a Heaven Hill product. And the product that I know I love and like.
You mean the Heaven Hill product, not a byproduct.
That's right. They're all Heaven Hill products.
Yeah, but you said that we're going to do the Heaven Hill product, but they're all Heaven Hill products. So
correct. One with the Heaven Hill label.
Yes, the main dog, I guess.
All right. So this is the bottled in bond. It's 7 years old. Here, right? We've got the Heaven Hill grain to glass, and then we've got the weeded bourbon whiskey. This one doesn't last long. So which one do you want to do? Just the regular Heaven Hill grain to glass, or the weeded Heaven Hill?
We've got a coin.
We don't need a little bit here, Ryan. You put your little input in. But second largest bourbon producer in the world. There are several different versions of each brand. So the guy told me like 60 today when I asked. It was like 60 brands. Who was the master distiller, the first master distiller at Heaven Hill? It was a Bean, Joe Bean.
Here we go again.
Yeah, so history and my notes are in such scattered order. I do know that they started their distillery in 1935 after the repeal of. So let's see. What else can I?
We told you this was not prepared.
I'm sorry. I could read it in order, but it just wouldn't make sense. So I'm just trying to hit the highlights here. So one thing that's very notable about Heaven Hill is in 1996, it was probably the biggest thing that I found when I did a little bit of research on Heaven Hill, and it was a fire. And when they had that fire and that I've done, that was not confirmed. But anyway, because it couldn't be confirmed because everything was burnt up. So they couldn't confirm it was a lightning strike. But it was. So a lightning strike started a fire in one of the rick houses. And with like 60 seconds, it was completely engulfed in flames. You got barrels of bourbon exploding. And the way they talked about it today, I mean, you can only imagine. There is film and footage of this stuff of fire rivers rolling downhill and catching more rick houses on fire and more rick houses on fire. And all in all, they lost 7 rick houses and over 100,000. So the main thing they lost was the distillery itself. All right. And in some of my notes, I heard that the next day they come in, the fire was still, they said the fire burned for like 4 days or something like that.
Don't set fire to your bourbon, folks.
Yeah. Alcohol fires can't be put out with water, so the firefighters were pretty helpless. They just had a little bit of foam, tried to save the rick houses they could. And today on that property, there is just one original rick house left, and it was built in 1970 something.
Posting TikToks and stuff later this evening because today is the day to be posting that stuff.
All right. So, but one thing
bourbon
about
floats. What do we know about bourbon floats?
It's the fire, the alcohol river of fire.
See, look, now you all don't have to do that. You don't have to go pour your bourbon in the river or the creek and set fire to it to know that it floats.
Well, that was in 1996. So they lost their distillery. They still had aging bourbon. They still had some rick houses. They still had a lot of bourbon because they still produced a lot of bourbon then. So they were bottling at this place at their old distillery. It was gone, but they were bottling bourbon. But what they didn't have is they didn't have a distillery. And you know, they are competitors. If I have a bourbon company and you're making bourbon, we're competing against each other for sales. You probably would. But we're competing against each other for sales, right? Well, here's what happened with this. So Heaven Hill burns down. They don't have it. 3 years. For 3 years, Heaven Hill was producing bourbon in other distilleries. One of those distilleries was Maker Mark. One was Jim Beam. One is Brown Foreman, but that's Woodford Reserve. Distilleries, master distiller and stuff was over at Maker's Mark working, producing Heaven Hill bourbon. And Maker's Mark let them do that. So that is just the community of bourbon came together.
Even though they are competitors in the sales region.
Exactly. And I thought that was something. I read about it in all the history. I knew that when she was talking about it, but that was something that I really like to hear about.
That for 3 years they tried to buy them out, and they
buying the Bernheim distillery. So Heaven Hill ended up buying the Bernheim distillery there in Louisville and started producing their bourbon in '99. Again, started distilling their bourbon again. So and now they're even larger and larger and larger, and actually the second largest behind Jim Beam. But you know who else was? I told you the master distiller at the time was a Beam, and then it was a Beam, and then somewhere. Yeah, I wrote it down somewhere. So I got a couple of more interesting things, and then I'm done with history.
I've been told something about a name change as well.
Yes. So here's the name change. So Heaven Hill was a Heaven Hill farm. When Heaven Hill, the Sapero brothers decided to purchase and make a distillery, they bought 100 acres of farm from an aging from a old farmer. He raised corn. This is what he did. He was ready to sell off 100 acres. They approached him. They bought 100 acres. That family name, I believe it was William, but his last name's the most important. It was Heaven Hill. No space. It used to be, or was. And that's the way they tried to do it. So they was going to name it in honor of that family that they bought that land from. So they went through all the paperwork down at the courthouse and everything else. They put it in, and somehow during all the filing process and everything else, it got the space. As you see right here, Heaven Space Hill, and that became the name. And when they noticed it, they were like, "Oh man, that's not what we wanted. We wanted Heaven Hill." So down at the county clerk's office or wherever the deeds changed hands, she mistook Heaven Hill as the place and not the name, so she spaced it. Well, when they did that, so dollars, we can change the name to Heaven Space Hill, and they said, you know what? It's fine. $35 is too much to go through all that. We're just going to keep it Heaven Space Hill. So their name is a mistake. Wasn't ever meant to be that, but I like it like this. I think I like it like this better than I would if it was.
I like it like that. Jeep. Oh, no.
So Heaven Hill. The other thing I was going to talk about. So after the fire, the other distilleries approached and said, "Hey, if y'all need to use our spot, you all can distill at our place." They split it up amongst 3 or 4 different distilleries. I had 3 of them. I forgot they were producing at 4 different places. But the problem that they had is the yeast, and we've talked about yeast before in our episodes and how important
Most
yeast
definitely.
yeast is to a bourbon recipe. Uh, the yeast was in that fire, and it was actually in the distillery in an upstairs area in refrigeration, right? So they didn't even know if they could make their product again.
Never knew
So
they yeast again.
they went through the they went through the they went through the wreckage and they found the refrigerator. They opened it. The yeast was still there, and they say it was still cool. So from that point on, they've split that stuff up, and it's in different places. That night isn't in theirs, and they probably have one in some kind of storage safe somewhere for that too, in case that ever happened again.
Another thing to keep in mind, guys, if you're wanting to open your own distillery, don't dump all your yeast into one basket, if you know what I'm saying.
I think they learned from that mistake. So I'll tell you another little story about one of the things
That you can take.
Multiple tours. You can bottle your own bottle. That's one of them. We did the bottled and bond, so we got to visit the bottled and bond warehouse. We got to look at some of those barrels. We got to taste some good product. But I didn't know, and maybe y'all don't know, but I'm a bourbon guy. Anything can be bottled and bond. It doesn't have to be bourbon. I didn't know that. I thought the bottled and bond act was just for bourbon.
Oh, bottle and bond back.
Anyway. So anything can be bottled and bond as long as it meets the 1897 Bottled and Bond Act,
which
rules.
Is. Would you like to quote each section of that for us?
No, thank you. No, thank you. I just know it's government control. So anyway, they do it. But speaking of bottled and bond and government involvement in that, so back in the day, they had their bottled and bond warehouses, and at that time they had, I forget even what the name of the thing was, but anyway, they went to one person had a key to the warehouse before, and how bad some of those rectifiers were, and the bad, dangerous things they did to their stuff just to get their dollars. Well, so the bottled and bond meant that stuff wasn't going to happen, so it was safe, secure. People liked it. I think it was a good idea. Evidently, the Birmingham guy did not, because he made some whiskey and stuff, and he didn't like it, even though he was doing everything legit. But anyway, so the guy with the key, the government guy with the key, in the middle of the night, because he liked bourbon too, right? So he'd sneak his samples. He'd do it. Well, he liked to play cards as well. And when he got talking to his cards buddies, he got up there around the 4th floor, and that's where the old Fitzgerald was barreled, and it was stored. And he said, "I've got some of the best bourbon. I got some of the best bourbon that there is." And they was like, "Oh, you ain't got the best bourbon. Bring it and prove it." So he would go and he would steal bottles out of these barrels. Well, he did this for a long time.
I'd do it too.
Well, it wasn't until those barrels got ready to be dumped that when the people were moving the barrels, they're like, "Hey, these barrels are almost empty." They knew how much they should weigh, and they weighed like hardly nothing. So they started to do some investigation and looking into it. Well, when they did, they staked out the warehouse. He come out of the thing, and he found him with it, and was his name Fitzgerald? So the guy that was in charge of doing this, his name was Fitzgerald. So instead of arresting him, which they were going to, he said, "You're right. He tasted that product. It's over this anymore. But come work for me, and you be my master taster." So this guy became the master taster, and he started tasting it.
The crime does pay, guys.
Sometimes I guess it does. It did in that instance anyway, because that guy went from being some kind of government guy that just looked at warehouses to actually getting to taste the product.
Drink bourbon for a living.
Legally. So anyway, he did that. But when he was going to get arrested, he said, "Man, you just committed larceny." So that is where the larceny name and label came from, supposedly.
And that's where my jealousy stems from.
All right. we're going to take a second to clean
Compose
off
ourselves.
clean off the counter. Let's clean off.
We
the
didn't even
counter.
make water for ourselves.
So,
We're so out of order.
So you can see some of these bottles are open. We haven't done episodes on most of these bottles. Most of these bottles we will. We have done some TikToks and stuff. Y'all seen the Elijah Craig 18 and stuff like that if you've paid attention and watched. Just set them in the back here, right? But
I feel like an elbow is going to go.
So Heaven Hill does make a lot of good products. They make a lot of affordable products. This is a $20 bottle, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have to do an episode on which is the best $20 at just about in any liquor store. Heaven Hill product. Also, I like this one too. It's the Fighting Cock, another $20 bottle. We got some. What's our producer saying? What's our producer saying?
This one? Oh my.
This one? This one.
20.
20.
3
Why
words.
don't you write it down? We're playing charades here, guys. Pink ribbon.
I'm looking. Show the bottle up there. Which one? 20.
All right. Show this bottle to the camera.
Where's
know.
she getting 20 out of this?
It's $20.
Oh.
$20 bottle. All right. We got some charades going on tonight at the Bourbon Basement. We got all kinds of stuff going on. We haven't decided yet either. Now, I've already had this one. We haven't done a show on it. We will one day. Incredible. $40 bottle, $41 bottle at Costco, about $55 bottle at some other places.
You frustrate me.
Don't be mean to our producer.
Not the audience, guys. I'm pointing behind you.
You're going to get fired. That's our producer.
Can't fire me.
All right.
I'm a co-founder.
So we have a Heaven Hill Weeded, and we have a Heaven Hill Grain to Glass. Grain to Glass, they raised the corn right there on the property, guys. We saw the fields where it's been cut. That's what they use to make the grain to glass. Which one we going to do?
I thought we said blue. I like the color blue.
All right, blue. This is the one I wanted to do.
Put it back up there then, Chief.
That was the weeded.
No, okay, let's go.
We're going with blue. We're going with blue.
Dang. You can have this one.
I'm going to pour some bottle. I'm going to pour some for later. I got a text or something, I think.
That was you?
I think.
I didn't know what it was.
Here, I'm going to let you look silly.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to taste this. Heaven Hill Grain to Glass. This is the Weeded. Oh.
We're going to do this right.
I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't know if the Weeded was out or not at the time. But Whiskey Advocate Magazine does their top 20 bourbons of the year, or their top 20 whiskeys of the year. And out of the top 20 whiskeys of the year, according to Whiskey Advocate Magazine, there are 6 Kentucky bourbons on there. But, there's I think, Whiskey Advocate Magazine.
That in right chair.
Number five on the top 20 bourbons, Whiskey Advocate Magazine.
And we're not doing that one?
I told you we could do it.
Okay.
Actually, this was the first actual bourbon on there. So it's the number 1 bourbon according to Whiskey Advocate Magazine. But the top 5, the weeded, because I do like a weeded recipe. And we'll save that top 5.
Only fight over this.
No.
It's no fun if you just give it to me.
What? We're going
to. Ooh. Oh, buddy. I saw a little spillage. Yeah, you did.
I did?
Yeah, you did.
Well, these are awful.
Was going to happen because we are drinking out of Angel's Envy cups.
Are we?
2 of them.
How ironic.
What are we?
I have a suggestion from a viewer, too. So some of the other viewers, sometimes they have a hard time seeing the whiskey tears. So when you show the whiskey tears in your glass, put your other hand behind it and see if that helps them see it on the camera. There's other TikTokers or
what we need is a black piece of cardboard paper, and I'll just hold it up in the background.
Well, try your hand tonight. What? All right, so I'm going to invite everyone here. Everyone that has some Heaven Hill. If you have the weeded, go ahead and pour you a glass.
Or
if you have
any
any Heaven Hill, if you want to do that top 5 one. But I
It's
invite
grainy.
you all to get a drink. Cheers to everyone. We're going to go through our normal tasting. Ryan, you going to talk about that? Because I've done an awful lot of talking.
You think that was a lot of talking?
Yeah, I think I haven't shut up yet.
I got to do tears first.
I need something at nostril. I'm right-handed, but I'm left nostril. If you know. So here's how she said to do that. So when you're over it, if you cover up one and you breathe in, you're going to get a lot of the ethanol or alcohol-y smells. That's your not dominant nostril. If you cover up the other hand and you do it, that's the ones you're going to get your aromas from. That is craziness. Use your hand, please. Let's show them some whiskey tears. Let's get this thing on the road. Sorry about the slow episode, everybody. All I got's fingerprints.
Too high. Too high.
This is craziness. You can see, look, that camera, you guys, that is awful. You can see beside it and over it. Why didn't you just use your hands? I can't even see no whiskey tears on there anyway.
We're getting there. We were just said it was too high.
That's awesome. Hand next time, please.
It would have been no better.
It may have been. That's craziness.
I don't know who suggested that. Take what you get and don't throw a fit. I'll get a piece of cardboard paper or something and have
I'm still a double nostril guy because I like to have it mixed.
I'm gonna just bury my whole nose in it. I don't think you can smell it much better than that.
What do you get? I don't get a lot of oak. I get some smoke.
This is almost like a Twinkie.
Really?
I like Twinkies.
I don't get Twinkie, but I do get maybe. I do get
Twinkie. I think they make those.
Well, I like chocolate Twinkies.
They do make them?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I dip my Twinkie in some caramel. Our producer says caramel and bananas. We got anything else? Got anything else back there from our?
Very enjoyable. So I will get into
orange
explaining
peel.
Orange peel, a little zesty.
Producer says orange peel.
I will get into the tasting now as we go past the smell. So we'll start out trying to get the scents, try to pull out something from there, and then when we go into our actual tasting, for those of you who have not joined us before, we will go through this, and we've just kind of compiled everything in from all the different tastings that we've done, the most important parts of a tasting. So
nostril, like me.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna stick.
You know which one you are? Did you try it? Do you want to try it?
I'm good.
She walked us through it today. It was like, really
if I want to touch my nose on stream, I'll be picking it.
Don't pick. You don't pick.
All right. So the first sip and the second sip, guys, is going to be acclimation sips, and it's just getting rid of all that burn and stuff that goes on in the background. So what we do is we'll take a small sip, move it around our mouth, let it sit on our tongue and stuff. Really just kind of put ourselves through the burn just to get rid of it, so we can actually go through with the tasting on sip 3. So that's what your first 2 sips are going to be in your taste.
I've got a lot of burn on this one.
I don't. That's why I was looking at the proof.
And usually rye has a lot of burn, but the wheat, this is wheated and it has a lot of burn to me. It's real strong on my tongue.
Troy from Baker Drinks. Cheers, y'all. Thank God it's Friday. Appreciate you tuning in, Troy. And then we got another one. Definitely a right nostrils person. So we got 2 lefties and a righty, and then we got Troy that's tuning in. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you having a drink with us on this beautiful Friday. Yeah. 53, 54 degrees here in Kentucky today, which I thought was kind of crazy.
It was a beautiful day. It's rain last
60.
night and then a lot of wind. It's windy though.
Lots of wind.
Today at Heaven Hills Rick House, it was 39 or 40 degrees though. It was cold up in
This is sip 2 for me, so sip 2 of acclimation.
I was really focused and concentrating.
You're not trying to taste it yet.
I know, but the burn, I was trying to get that burn out of there. It was a bad burn the first time. Not a beginner Bergen.
Bergen.
Not a I do that cinnamon flavor though. I'm not getting a lot of oak and in this. I get that real spice. Let me get that water. I get that
water in you.
So this is just distilled water, guys. It's boiled water. It means it has no taste, no flavor. So it shouldn't change as far as add anything to the taste profile. What you're going to get is
that the ones you're using?
It's going to open up.
Or did you have some out already?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
The drippies.
These?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are them. Sorry, we're usually more prepared than this. I was in a rush and then I got sidetracked. Anything. Oh well. So recap, what'd you just say about your tasting? Real quick.
Coffee, honey, cinnamon.
Okay. I get cinnamon, peppery, finishes a lingering burn on my tongue.
It does sit in your throat a little bit, but I'm not going to say that it's a.
But no, I like it. It's got a good flavor.
What's a little heartburn every now and then?
I don't get the heartburn. I get the tongue burn. This is one I probably drink on the rocks, and I'm hoping that this opens up some with the water.
I put 4 drops. I usually do. Do you want any water? No. Does anyone drinking with us want any water? Go get your distiller's water. Wow, that changed a lot.
It did. I get
I get a loaf of bread now.
Do you get the bread?
I get fresh bread.
And that's what I smelt when we originally poured this, was all that wheat and yeast and almost like a loaf of bread. And that's what I'm getting now.
It smells like a fresh bakery.
So the water changed that.
Muffins? I like that.
That is nice, ain't it? I like the smell better with water, even though it was good without it.
Ooh.
I think water opens this up nicely. Here, producer. Pass that around.
That is good.
Put you some water in this thing because it opens it up. It changes the profile of.
I mean, what?
This one on the rocks.
Sorry, guys, I'm shook. I'm kind of baffled.
I would drink this weeded one on the rocks or with some distiller's water in it. It really changes the whole profile. Tunes down that burn. I get a lot of sweet, like you said. I get a sweet muffiny, like what
is that? Longhorns. If you've ever been to Longhorn Steakhouse, the croissants that you can either get as an appetizer or that they bring out with your salad taste dead on that with like the sweet glaze on top of it.
Is it Rafferty's?
No. Rafferty's. Sorry. I'm getting Longhorn credit. It's not Longhorn. It's Rafferty's. If you've ever been to Rafferty's Steakhouse around here, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the glazed croissants.
Yeah.
Croissant?
Yeah, croissant. We're not doing wine. We're not French here.
It's so aggressive at the end of it.
Croissant. Okay. All right. So, melted honey butter. That's
Isn't
what
that basically what's on top of the croissant?
That's what I think our producer was letting you know. It's like a melted honey
sweet
butter.
Glaze.
And that's
good.
It is good. I like that one.
The water opens it up to your wheat.
I do like that a lot. All right. So
that's good.
What do you want to do? You want to rate this thing?
Yeah, we'll rate it.
All right. What are you gonna go with?
What? We'll rate it based on. We're not comparing anything. We're not comparing this to anything else. That's when we do our head-to-heads.
Head-to-head and blind tastings.
It took me a while to get him to understand that concept because he was comparing it to others. But we are not comparing this to any other bottle. We are just strictly saying we'll rate whether it's good for beginners. We'll rate how the finish is, how we thought the color was, what the taste profile was, and how we rank it on a scale of 1 to 10. Just the sole bottle. So go ahead.
All right. I would start without water. I would probably give it a 6.5. With water, I'm going to give it probably an 8 because I liked it that much better with water than I did without the water.
So we are doing different. And I think that's the most drastic change I've ever tasted so far on this show with the water.
I agree with that. And I think it changed it in both aspects. It changed it in the nose and it changed it on the palate.
You can notice it immediately on the nose.
It was more complex on the palate with water. I think the water took that burn out and maybe let my taste buds work a little bit. Get it before we start the show, huh? All right. So that was me. But I like it. These are
So a 6.5 and an 8 from you with the water.
Yeah, these are pretty expensive. I don't think this is a beginner bourbon. It's very warm with it not being water. I think the water toned it down. But this also, why it's not, and you get a good proof. You get high proof. So these high proof bourbons, they're made to water down, a lot of them. So this one here especially.
Tried. All right. So it does have a little kick, but I don't think I was tasting the same thing that he was in it. I like.
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you for a minute? In our Eagle Rare episode last week, it would do that, and then it like skips a bunch of the episode.
Has it looked fine on the camera?
But it did in Eagle Rare too. I think
it might not have looked. It might not have looked. It might not have looked fine here, but it may have looked fine on there.
But have you watched the episode? Right. I am sorry I interrupted. And you go.
Ellie Cortez, appreciate you tuning in. She is enjoying a glass of Blanton's Gold at the moment.
Nice. We got some on the shelf over there. We'll do an episode on it probably this year sometime.
Very good pour. Thinking as much into it as he was. I like the nose on both of them with and without water. I think that I like it better with the water. I was getting more sweetness without it, though. I was getting more water in it. But anyway, not beginner friendly, I don't think. It ranks high with me. I'm going to say probably a 7, conservatively. I could probably push it to like a 7.8 or an 8, but I'm not Ellie. The name. I said Ellie. It's Eli.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Eli.
We're trying to talk and read, and he, he's young.
I mean,
I
got more pricey, but with that higher proof burn that you want to go for, this is right up your alley.
I agree. I like it. I gave it a thumbs up, though, if that means anything.
And sorry, guys, if it is buffering, I guess I'm going to have to do a Wi-Fi reset on some stuff and see what the actual problem is, because I did notice it as well last week. I didn't watch what the aftermath of it was through the video, but apparently it's been an issue. But at least the comments and stuff were turned on.
That's awesome, because last week they weren't.
It would have saved me from mispronouncing names, but
this is like our 18th or 19th episode. Maybe by the 100th episode, we'll have it all smooth.
I'll let you set it up next week. We'll see how it goes.
If I set it up, it's going to still see my shoes.
Very good bourbon, guys. If you have the opportunity to go tour this distillery, it sounds like it was a great time. I recommend it.
Highly recommend it.
They do have multiple tours, like he mentioned before. They took the bottle and
good restaurant. Had the Wagyu burger or something like that. It was good. Wagyu.
No, Wagyu. Okay. Anyway.
At the Five Guys restaurant at the distillery. Five Brothers restaurant at the distillery. You gonna close us out?
Yeah, I guess. What's the liquor store?
I don't see those in the liquor stores.
Okay, well, if you can, I guess you got to go to the distillery to get
this bottle. I won at that auction, and I paid $100 for, and the bottle I bought today at the distillery was $104.
Okay, guys. Well, if you can get your hands on this, I highly recommend it. It's a very good pour. You just have to get past that burn. All that being said, guys, we appreciate you all so much for tuning in, as always, giving us a little bit of time out of your day. We know that we're not the most entertaining people out there, but we try to be funny and make it a little bit interesting for y'all. So we appreciate you all giving us a little bit of time. If you haven't already, follow us on our socials. If you want to see some behind-the-scenes stuff that you don't see back here on the live show, we have TikTok Lemonade. We're going to be making an Instagram, I think. We have a Flip, YouTube Shorts. I think that I've done a decent job on the YouTube Shorts here recently, but it's a work in progress. Facebook, yes, we made a Facebook as well. And all these usernames, guys, it's the Bourbon Basement, no space, the same as what you see here. If you ever want to go back and watch any of our archive live streams, you'll find them on our channel underneath the live tab. If you want to watch our shorts that we've done, they'll be underneath the shorts tab. That's it. That's all. All that being said, guys, thank you all very much once again. And as always, why drink alone
when you can drink with us?
We'll see y'all next Friday.
Hey, can I have a hug?
Get you a warm one right there.
I will. I'll take another warm Kentucky hug then. You hear that, Pop? That's nice.